What's up, guys? Tim Little, Matt Allen. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin, and welcome back to another episode of the 2024 Holiday Buyer's Guide series. Today's video, we're covering everything that we use on a daily basis out on the water.
This is the gear that Tim and I use every day. And there's really not a good time throughout the year to necessarily stop and talk about it. So we were pretty pumped when we were watching this Black November sale on Tackle Warehouse, and we saw that all the accessories went on sale because this is that, right? There's never been a time to just stop and walk you through some of the critical items that we use every single day. Some for convenience, some because they make all the difference in our fishing. But today we finally get that opportunity, and it's at a time that they're on sale and you can take advantage of it.
Yeah, we got a whole plethora of things here. Random stuff. We got reel covers and jump boxes and nets and all sorts of stuff. But this is stuff that we truly use on a daily basis, if not a weekly basis, and often gets overlooked.
Right.
So, well, you want to jump into it?
I'll go first. Sure. Let's do this. All right. First one, life jackets. We wear them. We've always got them with us, but you guys don't always get to see them when you're looking forward in the boat, right? We're wearing them when we're behind that camera driving. This particular life jacket is made by Mundane Survival. The reason that I chose this one, because there's half a dozen really good options in life jackets. I like an inflatable because it's just a lot more convenient to wear. Someone besides me. Somebody besides me put this on last. Hang on while I adjust it to a big boy size.
Got him.
Got him. It's still tight.
It's
So-
right to save your life.
That's right. So, an inflatable really is that much more convenient to wear just non-stop, right? When we're fishing dams, you keep them on while you're actively fishing. The rest of the time, we generally wear them while we're driving the boat.
Sure.
But when you're up on those dams and you need to be fishing with this thing on, it's got to be low profile. There's two things that I look for in a life jacket. One is that it is both automatic and manual, which means at any time I can grab this cord and yank it and this thing will inflate.
You want to show them?
I'd rather not. You're just going to have to trust me on that one. It's also automatic, which means if you fall overboard, as soon as it's submerged a few inches, it will pop on its own. The reason why an automatic is so important is because in some situations where you're actually going to end up in the water, you may or may not be conscious anymore. Think boat accident, right? So that is super critical to me. The other thing that's really important, as you saw, I'm not exactly a little guy here. All the different life jackets have a different rating of how much buoyancy they actually have. And this particular Mustang is the most buoyant. So it has the most float when it is inflated of any of the available options. It costs a few more bucks to get that. But to me, particularly like jet boating, that is a situation where we really may end up in the water, right? Because the difference when a jet boat's running perfect and when you're crashing, it's fractions of an inch, right? So it's very likely that we could end up in a situation where we're hitting hard and could end up out of the boat. So maximum flotation is critical.
And good job on that life jacket seminar.
You like that? That was good.
Like senior check. All right. No, it's super important. A lot of times you'll see us shoot our intros and we're sitting at the console and we might not have our life jackets on, or we're fishing, we don't have our life jackets on. But when we're running the boat, typically we have that thing on and a kill switch. That way, if we do get ejected, it kills the motor. I'm going to go ahead and knock, we'll start with the net.
All right.
Okay. A lot of times, I'm probably more known for it than you are, but I like to boat flip a ton.
I've boat flipper over here.
But I've gotten in the habit of using the net. I love having a net, especially, well, one of two things. One, really big fish, and two, catfish or drum. I hate bringing those things into the boat. And you have to, like, they're so slimy and anyways. But this net, the particular net we use is made by Fraybill. It's got a coated netting, which is really important to us. One, it protects the fish, and two, it makes it easier to get our treble hook baits and our hook baits.
Yeah, you can get all twisted up in that, and it still comes
net,
right
and it
back
doesn't
out.
take forever. A lot of times we're on bites where we want to get that fish unhooked, back in the water, and make another cast to keep those fish fired up. So that is extremely important. So again, Fraybill makes an awesome net. This thing collapses down, push button. It's really easy to store either in the back of the truck.
It also goes the other way too. Quarter turn.
And extends out for when you do have those big fish on and you want to get an extra 4 or 5 feet out there to reach out and touch them. All right, next up, let's jump over here. I took this just straight out of the boat just to show it to you guys. Again, these are things that we use on the daily and we don't necessarily take the time to talk about. It would be pretty rare that you guys would still be with us camera on at a moment where we realize we need a jump pack. But let me tell you, there are times we need a jump pack, right? You have a battery go awry, something doesn't work right. A NOCO boost is the deal. And the reason why we specifically use this one is that, one, it's got a great charge. It'll hop a boat almost all day long. Like I have been in a situation where I've gone on a trip and I had a battery go awry, but it was shallow water, so all I needed to do was get to A and B, and I have shot an entire video with a cooked battery. I didn't have time to drive to town and buy a new battery, and I ran an entire day where I would hook my jumper up and make a run to my next stop, because the starting battery with our Yamahas is not a high-end battery, right? It's not a lithium, it's not some amazing, just any old starting battery will do, but when it doesn't do, I have used a jump pack literally to make moves all day long so that I could keep fishing because I didn't want to get booted off the water. But the reason why a NOCO is that it has an override. You can hold this down. So these are really smart. They sense a battery, and if they don't sense it, they won't let it work. So you can't mess anything up. But if you have a lithium battery that goes to sleep and they need to be woken, you can't do that with a smart charger. It won't sense the battery. There's 0 voltage and it won't work. But if you hold this down, you can eliminate that and you can manually force that charge and you can wake up a lithium battery. I just had to do that the other day. That's exactly right. You got to override it and wake up the battery. All right, next up, lure retrievers. You guys are often seeing us catching fish. Very rarely are you seeing us hung up or snagged.
Yeah, because we never do that.
But it does happen, right? So 2 different items for you. This is another product from Fraybill. It's I don't even know what you want to call this. It's basically
an extendable
pole, just like a painter's pole. You loosen it, it extends all the way out, and this thing will extend, 15 feet or more. But how this thing works, when you have your line hung up, you take your line, taut line, and you just thread this thing on there like a cork. It just threads on, and you have your main line coming up here, and you hold your line, and you come down, and you can push and push that bait backwards, or hook it and pull it off of the snag. So this has saved us hundreds, if not thousands of dollars through the years. A-rigs, swim baits, you name it, that thing works. As long as you are shallower than 15 feet. On the flip side, we got this guy right here. This is a lure retriever made by Toothy Fisherman. Again, available at Tackle Warehouse. For years, we had buddies make them.
Almost identical.
Almost identical,
the
right.
exact same thing.
On mine, in my boat, I actually have a carabiner that hooks here. This is the bottom, this is the top, and I take like 75 foot or 100 foot of paracord tied to a buoy, wrapped up. So when I do get my HUD hooked up or snagged or my A-rig or whatever it may be, I take this, put my line right through there. It's got a little gap, line through there, hold the rope, slide it down. It's going to go down, and it's either going to knock that lure or A-rig off of that snag, or it's going to grab the hooks with these chains, and then with that paracord, I can pull up and get that bait back. So again, this thing is, I think it's not that expensive, maybe 40 or 50 bucks.
Something like that, and it pays for itself
in the first
100 times over.
Yeah, so that is definitely a necessity if you guys are out on a boat and you get hung up a lot, because that thing will pay for itself in literally like the first or second time you use it.
Yep. All right, next one up. This is one that I use every single day, but you guys have never seen them because I've never pointed them out. This is called a lodestone. What this is a magnet. I've got these things all over my boat. All over it. Like I'm pointing at 2 of them up there. They're all over the place. This one is made to clip. So like if you're walking the bank, if you're a backpack guy, pond fishing, walking shore, clip this to your backpack and you just take your loose baits, your tools, whatever, and you just hang them on that thing. It has been a lifesaver for me with loose baits because I've got piles of loose baits everywhere, right? And you've got your little trash pile, sure, but you've got your good baits that you just took off, but you don't want to put them away right away because they're still wet, but you don't want them getting wrecked. You sure don't want them blowing out. I've got these things positioned. So this one is made to clip. The others, there's one the same size with a sticky back that's made to stick to the boat. Wherever you put it, it's there forever. And you can just take your stuff and just lay it on there. And then there's also a larger size. I use both. So I fell in love with this thing earlier this year. I was coming back from inshore fishing in South Florida, and I had a whole bunch of swim baits, like paddle tail swim baits, all lined up on the bigger size in my jet boat, lined up on there. And I was walking by them and they looked cool in the light, and I took a picture of them. And then I drove all the way home. We'll pretend I did 65 miles an hour all the way home, right? 65 mile an hour wind, we'll say, nothing faster. And I got all the way home, was unloading all my stuff, and I looked, and the baits were in like almost the exact set. Like they hadn't even moved going like 12 hours down the freeway. It's incredible how well they hold on that thing. So I've got them up on the nose of my boat. As I'm changing baits out, I just drop the baits onto the 2 magnets up there next to my trolling motor, and they just stay put. It's one of those little things that makes your life so much easier, and nobody thinks about it. These things, lodestones, are the deal.
All right, next up for me, this is a question that I get asked pretty often, and I try and respond to all the comments, but it just seems like it never fails when I have a video where I loop a bait on or hook a bait on or loop a drop shot weight on. These guys right here, this is the CalCoast Clip. Okay, what this is, it's a hard plastic that comes in 3 different sizes, small, medium, and large. I typically use the yellow and the red, but all this thing does is pop onto your rod. So it's got a line slot on one side and a hook loop on the other. So if you're throwing a shaky head or a square bill or a top water, you just run your hook right there and it's a hook keeper. On the flip side, you want to flip it over. If you are a drop shot fisherman or you're fishing a bait that you don't want to have to expose the hook to hook it into the hook keeper, you just run your line right through that gap. Like a perfect example would be a drop shot weight, right? Right through that gap, and it holds it, reel your line tight, and it's as easy as that. So that is the CalCoast Clip. It works extremely well. You can put it on wherever on your rod. Just make sure you get the right size. They sell them in 3 packs, all of the same size or an assortment. Typically, like I said, smaller I use yellow, a little bit larger I use the red, but for the most part, those are the 2 colors that I use, but they work extremely well.
All right, next up, from Rod Glove, we've got their tournament rod sleeves. So protecting your gear is everything, right? You spend a lot of money on rods and reels, and you want to take care of that stuff. Neoprene sleeves are the ultimate in taking care of your rods. The only issue with a lot of neoprene sleeves is they're so thick that they're actually heavy and will weigh down your rod tips a lot, even when they're in the box. So this particular one, the tournament series, is very thin and super affordable. I mean, by far the most affordable neoprene sleeves that I have found. You run your rod inside and then your rods are completely protected, whether that's in the rod locker of your boat, whether that's banging around in the cab of your truck or in the bed of your truck. It just keeps your stuff from getting beat up. And then also for your reels, they've got reel gloves. Both of these are awesome. This one for your bait casters, that's such good coverage. That's a metanium inside of there, and it's totally safe. When we travel a lot, if we're traveling with a lot of gear, we put them in a reel bag. But if you're not traveling with a bunch, I'll take, half a dozen reels like this and just throw them in a backpack, and I'm ready to roll. This one in particular, the way this fits, there's a Stella hiding in there, right? You take that thing, you tuck it in, but you leave your handle out. It's the best fitting style that I have found, and it also works on the rod. So whether you're taking your stuff apart or you're trying to protect it on the rod, they work unbelievably well. Those neoprene is padded, it's soft, it won't scuff your stuff up. It is the best that we have found day in and day out protecting our gear.
Yeah, it sucks. You know, we travel a lot, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of miles a year, and it never fails. You open your rod locker to go, when you get to your destination, you pull out your Metanium MGL, and it's all scuffed on the side because it just spent the last 2,000 miles rubbing against the Stella next to it, and it's just like, why didn't I just put the real gloves on?
Yep.
All right, next up for me, I recently did a fishing line mistakes video a few weeks back, and I wish I would have talked about this then, but totally forgot, so we got it in today's video. You know, we talked a lot about different connection knots and tying braid to leader, whether it's braid to mono or braid to fluorocarbon, but anytime you want to secure your connection knot or just add a little strength to your knot, this guy right here, this is made by Loon Outdoors. It's UV Knot Sense. So you take this, it's like super glue, but it's activated by UV light. Yep. So you take a little dab and you put it on your connection knot, and then you hit it with this light for 10, 15, 20 seconds, and it's gonna harden up. That thing is like cement. So it's awesome for securing your connection knots, your knots to your baits, whatever you want to use it on. I primarily use it for connection knots, but this guy right there is, it's like adding an extra layer of protection to your connection knots.
Yeah, it never fails. Almost every video, somebody asks us a question about connection knots, and we answer them straight up. Like, hey, what knot is that? Oh, that's a blood knot. Hey, what knot was that, right? Nobody ever says, hey, do you glue your knots? Yeah. And the answer is when we're using super light lines and we're targeting really big fish, absolutely, we glue our knots too. And that it doesn't really come up, right? We're not thinking about it. Nobody's asking the question. That's what makes this video so special. We're covering a lot of those little outliers. Next one up from Humminbird. This is the Lake Master Premium Map Card. This goes into your electronics to help you navigate, to drive more safely, to locate fishing spots quicker, to find transitions. Flat out, there's no way that I can hit this hard enough for you to understand. Tim and I travel all over the country. We have been doing it for years, just like traveling pros, traveling full time. People wonder how we show up places and just catch fish. Some of that is the amount of time we put on the water, right? You're dialed in, you can recognize things very quickly, but flat out, we could not do it without quality mapping. It's that big of a deal. It's everything. I would not be able to show up to a brand new lake I've been to and open wide up and run across a giant lake with trees showing and just know that I'm going to be okay without a map card to tell me I'm in a river channel. And you're going to catch fish on your first spot and you're like, I wonder if there's anywhere else like this, right? You wouldn't be able to build patterns without a quality map card. It is everything in fishing. Whether you travel full time or you fish one lake, you will learn more from a quality map card. When map cards took that leap, I was upset. I'm not going to lie. You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
So I guided for a really long time. Dude, stuff that I had worked on my whole life, places that I had found, little nuances on the lake that no one fished. Overnight, everybody had them on a card. You could just go to the store and buy a lifetime of knowledge for that lake. I was upset. But now that we travel all the time, we couldn't do it without it. It's that big of a deal.
Yeah, those new VX cards are insanely accurate too. One of the biggest features too is, you know, we fish a lot of bodies of water that water fluctuates, and being able to basically one tap and turn the dial to adjust the water level down
10 feet low.
Yeah, and it automatically adjusts all your contour lines. You can add depth highlights. So me personally, I have everything shallower than 5 feet or shallower. I have it red, so I know that hey, there's a high spot right there. Don't run through there. I mean, there's all different ways that you can tweak that card and really make those key fishing areas pop, and that's what really helps us break down the waters fast. All right, let's go tools. We don't talk about tools at all.
At all. And we use them every day.
Scissors, pliers, right? How do you unhook a fish without pliers, especially when they're hooked in through the cartilage? Rapala makes some of the best tools that don't break the bank. I have these in my boat. These are just out of your boat. Between like a 6-inch plier, needle nose plier that won't rust, or a nice set of braid scissors with cutters on the side for, you know, whether you're musky fishing and need to cut wire or leader or whatever, and then having a little finesse set of scissors. These are like the 3 that I use on a daily basis. And yeah, you might see it in a clip or two when we're talking to the camera and we snip off a knot and we tie a new leader or something while we're talking. But really, that's the only time you're gonna see this stuff, or we're unhooking a fish. But for the most part, this stuff, these are like the unsung heroes of the fishing, because we're using it basically every fish catch.
I mean, through the years, I'll bet I've thrown away 50 pairs of scissors, pliers, whatever, because it's all rusted up. Let me see those pliers. Like, this is genius. When I'm looking for tools, you want them to stay sharp and you don't want them to rust out, right? These are the mag spring pliers. There's 2 magnets in here. There's no spring. It can't stop working. It's the dumb stuff that makes such a difference day in and day out. All right, scale. Weigh in your fish. I won't get on a soapbox today, but accuracy matters. The weight of a fish matters. It matters if it's your personal best. It matters for world records. It matters day in and day out. A 4-pounder is a 4-pounder. A 3.9 is a 3-pounder. Right? If you don't think it matters, go to the tournament scales when your weights were wrong. You're going to find out it matters. A 9.95 is a 9-pounder. A 10.0 is a 10-pounder. Right? It actually matters. It really does. So accuracy is so important. Years ago, long before MLF started using them, right? Forever ago, we started using the Brecknell Electro Samson. The reason why is that this is one of 2 scales that you can buy, carry in your boat, and it will consistently pass muster for a record, which means it can be certified accurate. You can certify them ahead of time if you're a record chaser, but if you're just a guy and you happen to catch a monster fish and you weigh it on the wrong scale, it doesn't matter what happens after that, it won't count. Right. You can catch a fish, hang it on an Electro Samson, and then after the fact, get that scale certified and actually still be able to get a record. Little stuff like that doesn't matter day in and day out, but if you cross paths with a giant, you'll wish that you had it, right? And it does matter.
And yeah, not to get on a soapbox, but we've played with a ton of scales, and there is a lot of BS scales out there. You're like, well, this one weighs 1.5 pounds heavy. Well, it doesn't matter when you're catching 50-pound striper or tuna or something, but when you're catching an 8-pound largemouth, all of a sudden it's
it weighs 10.5.
Now it's 9.5, but we're just going to round it up to 10. Now you just give yourself 2 pounds on an 8-pound largemouth. It just happens all the time. So being able to go to sleep at night with accurate fish weight, I can't tell you how many. Well, actually, I can tell you, I think I have 3 9.98s that were 9-pounders that did not go 10 pounds, right? But if I didn't have a good scale, I probably have 3 more 10 doubles added to my list, right?
Right.
So it just, anyways.
We'll get off the soapbox, but accuracy matters. And that is one of 2 scales that you can carry, and it is by far the more affordable of the 2 that will consistently weigh even after they take a beating. All right. Let's talk about bait scent.
Now, through the years, we've always talked, man, we don't use bait scent, right?
Because it's nasty.
It's messy. You know, when I was still tournament fishing, I was using Procure to pre-rig my tubes. I'd put a squirt in there.
And he wouldn't warn me. I'd grab one of his tubes, that stuff would gush out on you.
Well, it just has the scent in there, and it lubes the inside of the tube so you can pop that bulbous tube head in there, and it just makes it easier. So I'd pre-rig those for tournament days. With that said, a few years ago, they came out with bait fuel, and you know, we were like, man, we'll try it or whatever. And I remember the day that I tried it. I was shaky head fishing in the summertime, and the bite sucked. And I was by a marina, and I was in an area that I'd caught fish prior. I knew there was fish there, and I pulled this stuff out, put a strip of it on my T-Mac. I was throwing a shaky head, and the first cast I caught a fish. And kind of the light bulb went off. I'm like, again, another fish. And that kind of opened my eyes to the scent stuff again. You know, there's so much going on in the fishing, so much pressure. We talk about it all the time. Anytime you could do something to your bait to make it sound a little different, make it look a little different, make it smell or taste a little bit different, I think you are adding, or you're at least giving yourself an advantage to catching those fish. And I'm not going to get into all the science and stuff behind the bait fuel. You know, talking to some of those guys over there, you know, there's a lot of, I can't remember what university and all the studies they did with it to develop it.
That's what got me. I watched a video that they did on that, and I realized there really was science behind it.
Right. And that's where it was like, okay, this makes sense now. And then shortly thereafter, they came out with the hard bait stick. So this is, I kind of soak my soft plastics in this. I'll put it in a bag or just dump some in the bag or reapply after a few casts. But if you want to put it on hard baits, that guy right there, it's just like the old school glue stick. You just kind of wipe it on both sides of your bait. And
as petty as it is, it doesn't stink either.
And yeah, that's another key. If you go to sniff this, you won't smell it. But again, science. You know, fish, they can smell a lot better than we can. There's just some things going on that made it really intriguing. And then to hear that story and then go out
and then see it in our fishing,
see how it affected. I was like, it works.
It's not all day every day, but when I get desperate, like it's a rough day, out it comes.
Yeah, like you ever buy those like expensive swim baits? You buy swim baits, you pull them out of the package, and it's like, oh, that. I mean, you got to let them sit out on your boat or the dash of your truck for a few days just to kind of air out. That definitely helps mask that.
All right, and with that, I think we're going to wrap it up. Again, this was just a hodgepodge of the things that we use every single day that we don't necessarily take the time to talk about, but will make a big difference for you guys. And it's an added bonus that it's at a time where you can take advantage of that Black November sale. We're going to keep these videos rocking and rolling every single day. We'll see you guys again tomorrow morning. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you then.
See you guys.